she's there.
Hi,
There she
good
is.
morning.
Hi.
Hey
Yes,
there.
we can hear you as well. You've been following along. What's your take so far?
I think Mr. Sayz is doing exactly what we expected him to do and exactly what I think needs to be done. The difference between opening statement and closing argument is that in opening statement, you play out the facts. It's kind of a roadmap for the jurors to follow as they see all the pieces of evidence come in through the witnesses. Closing argument is where you get to make connections. Closing argument is where he goes over the same basic evidence that he discussed in opening statement, but now he tells the jurors what he thinks they should conclude, what he thinks they should infer from the evidence. And that's the big difference. That's why closing argument is an argument and opening statement is a statement. And I think he's doing exactly that. Mr. Sayz is very methodical. He set out what he was going to prove. He's proved it. Now he's explaining to the jurors what they should take from that evidence that he's presented.
And Brianna, if we could briefly talk about the deliberations, obviously we know there is a load of evidence here, so much that these jurors have to go through and remember. So what do you foresee happening tomorrow? Do you see this being a lengthy process or something a little bit quicker?
I think this is going to be somewhere in the middle. I think that, these jurors have had a lot of time to think over this evidence, to think about how they feel. It's slightly different once they're all together with the other jurors and they start deliberating. It's going to take some time for all of them to explain to each other how they feel. But I don't think it's going to be a super lengthy deliberation in the sense of, weeks or anything like that. I would expect that this will take at least a couple of days. It's a lot of evidence, and it's a very big decision for anybody to make regarding another person's life, but particularly someone like Nikolas Cruz, who has given them so much to discuss.
We've mentioned the forensic psychiatrist who interviewed the shooter, and it was hard to listen to. It was he was asked, why'd you stop shooting? He said, because I couldn't find anyone else to shoot. He ran out of people to shoot or ran out of bullets, something to that effect. Do you play that now for the jurors, or do you do that in the rebuttal?
That's a tough choice. I personally would probably save it for rebuttal, but I'm sure the defense is going to address it. And that's one of the things that as an attorney you have to strategically think about, because the defense is going to try and explain things away, even if they are not things that you have discussed yet. But that would be such a powerful way to end. I mean, his own words. There's nothing speaks louder than the individual's own words. I think Mr. Sayz is very astute to put that before the jury from the beginning, that his words really are the windows to his soul. Although some of us might argue that Nikolas Cruz is kind of soulless.
And Maria, where do you think that tour of the 1200 building really stands with the jurors? I mean, it did not happen last week or yesterday, but naturally what they walked through and saw is a very horrifying picture that was painted for them. So how much do you think that's going to weigh on their decision making?
I would imagine that that was very impactful. I don't know that in terms of decision making, whether the death penalty is appropriate or not, that's going to be one of the heaviest things on their mind. I think the point of that was basically, we all know the old adage, picture paints, is worth 1,000 words. This wasn't just a picture. This was experiencing exactly what the people who were in that building, experienced as closely as you can possibly get to it. They saw the impact, real life. I think that has to be very impactful on the jury. But I think that this is a jury who is going to be very careful, who is going to take great pains to follow the law. There are a lot of jury instructions. Even Mr. Sayz now was explaining to them how some aggravators apply to some of the victims and not to others. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to be the facts and the law, and things like the tour are impactful, but I don't think these jurors are going to base their decision on just impact. I think they're really going to take it all, the totality of the circumstances, into consideration and apply the law to it. And they look like they're very engaged. They look like they've been very thoughtful, and I believe that that's exactly the way they're going to carry through in these deliberations.
Maria, it didn't sound as if Mr. Sayz was quite done with his closing argument. So when they come back, I'm sure he's going to lay out a lot more evidence. And then I believe he's got maybe 45 minutes to go. There's a 2-hour time limit. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. That's what they asked for. By the way, that's what the attorneys have asked for. The judge did not impose a time limit. They voluntarily said that about 2 hours. I think that was a very smart move on both the prosecution and the defense. This has been a very lengthy trial. There is a lot of evidence to discuss, but these people, I think you guys mentioned a little while ago, are kind of like, over it. And for them to stand there and argue for 4 or 5 hours would have been nothing but detrimental. So I think that was a very smart move on both the parts of the of this trial.
So when they do resume and Mr. Sayz wraps up, do you think they'll head for lunch? I mean, we're speculating, or do you think the judge will want to get right into the defense?
I'm pretty sure that the defense is going to want the opportunity to kind of gather their thoughts together and to fully prepare before they come back. You lose some impact when you go from one argument to the other, and I think the fact that there's going to be a short little recess in between, Mr. Sayz's argument and the defense beginning is probably something that they want to take the most advantage of possible. And I do anticipate, however, that rebuttal will go will go forward immediately after the defense rests their closing argument.
Sure, good strategy there. All right. Former Assistant Broward State Attorney, thanks very much, Maria Schneider. As always, good of you to be with us and great insight there.